Welcome to Talking Synths. Again, another broadcast from Knobcon, and we're here right now with Suit and Tie Guy. And I'm Sam.
I'm Carlos.
And the three of us are talking about synths and other interesting topics, such as ties. We were just talking a bit about ties, and he's got a Jerry Garcia tie in that purple and silver motif.
Yep.
I have a Jerry Garcia tie in that same color motif.
Yours is different.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Well, he paid full price for it.
Yeah, he paid full price. I bought mine in Amarillo at the Salvation Army store, along with 27 other ties. And 20 of them were Jerry Garcia ties.
Wow.
Yeah, I got it on a trip back from NAMM.
And now the price of Jerry Garcia ties in Amarillo is just skyrocketed.
So that's a good question right there, Talking Synths. How do you feel about that, the price of synthesizers in the vintage synth market?
Well, let's see. I'll tell you a little story. In 2013, on my way back from the NAMM convention in Anaheim, I like to go to, I like to spend time in the desert on the way back, okay?
Nice.
I like to spend like a week in Albuquerque usually.
Just eating peyote?
No, I haven't done that yet, but I do like. Last time, the really cool thing I did. This is going to sound crazy, but I drove out into the Zia Pueblo, and in that area, and I can't. You can't really go into the Pueblo as a visitor, but you can drive around and just stay within the fences, and you're fine, right? Mm-hmm. And I drove up far enough. This is like north of Albuquerque, like north and I think like north and west or north and east or something. Yeah, whatever. You can look up the Zia Pueblo if you really care. But I drove out far enough that I was able to hear nothing.
That's amazing to hear nothing, isn't it? Yeah.
Nothing. And it's like being in the desert and hearing a nothing is completely different than being in an anechoic chamber and hearing nothing. Mm-hmm. Because you're in a wide open space. There's no fear of, like, you don't have claustrophobia or anything. It's just a little surreal to be in such a beautiful, wide open place and hear nothing.
Wow.
No engines, no animals. No animals. It's the desert. The animals kind of keep themselves. They're pretty quiet. They're pretty quiet.
That sounds very cool.
So yeah, and I, but anyway, so I was in the 2013 trip back. I think it was 2013. I bought a Jupiter 8 from a very nice man named Vince Ascoli, and I think I paid $3,000 or $4,000 for it. I can't remember. And at the time, it was worth $6,000. He sold it to me for that price because he liked me and it did need work. Mm-hmm. And I put the work into it when I brought it back. Vince, side note, Vince, he's an excellent musician, but he's also an actor. He played an ATF agent in the Waco miniseries for Netflix, and he has been at times Bob Odenkirk's stand-in on Better Call Saul. And so, and I'm gonna circle back to that in a second. But that synthesizer that I bought, I paid $3,000 for in 2013, then became worth by last year $20,000. Yeah. And I realized that a couple things. I had been basically holding on to it because I had this idea to take my Jupiters and turn them into a CS60 and a CS80. I successfully converted my Jupiter 6 to a CS60. Mm-hmm. But then the Jupiter 8, which I'd been holding on to in case I could turn it into a CS80, or if I got cancer, I would sell it. Mm-hmm. I realized that I had to do something, and it required a lot of money. And that thing was...
Yeah.
Oh my God! I just did something.
That's all right.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. You don't need to edit that out.
We'll leave it in.
Leave it in.
I can't find it.
Leave it in. The guest is a dick. Look what he did. Look what he did. All right. So this is one of my synthesizers. This is a self-contained thing, right? Mm-hmm. And basically, I wanted to make synthesizers that were directly compatible to the Moog Mother 32 system. Okay. and Moog wouldn't sell me the boats that I wanted. So I sold the Jupiter 8, and I bought a half-ton of aluminum with it. Now, most people would not, you know, you wouldn't, I mean, as far as like, you know, the metal, the value of precious metals, you don't really, you know, it's like when you're looking at the value of metals versus, you know, it's like, I don't think like a half-ton of aluminum is worth $20,000, right?
Right.
But I was able to take the Jupiter 8 and turn it into a shape to force molten aluminum through, and comes out the other end is a synthesizer case. And nice. I have no regrets. I have no regrets. And as far as like Vince goes, he, a couple years after selling me a Jupiter 8 for half of what it was worth at the time, he bought a raffle ticket from the Bob Moog Foundation and won a memory Moog.
Oh, wow.
And isn't that cool? That's really neat.
That's karma.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's a very good story. Coming back around.
Yeah. And and Vince, if you're listening, I'm gonna hook you up. I promise. I wasn't intending to ever sell that thing, but you understand.
Yeah.
But so now I can build from the case, the power supply, everything. Nice. I can now finally. I am a small, mobile, and independent synthesizer builder. So.
Well, so that brings up something we skipped completely over. Who is Suit and Tie Guy, and how did he get into all this stuff?
Okay, well, that's a question, I guess. Are you asking me how I got into synthesizers?
Yes, or how you got into the synthesizer business, and
by accident.
Maybe tell us a little bit, kind of broadly, about what you do in this industry.
Yeah. Okay, the reason I'm named Suit and Tie Guy is because, like all nicknames, it is a pejorative, and I did not choose it. If you chose your own nickname, then it's probably not very good or effective. So, like, I was given this name in 1995 by some drunks at a restaurant called Lums in Peoria, Illinois, and just couldn't live it down. Of course, part of the joke is that I never wear a suit. I always wear a jacket and pants that don't match. And that's I always wear black pants. I always wear black pants and a white shirt and some kind of a cool jacket, okay? So it's not even an accurate name. You know, it's kind of like, you know, like, oh yeah, Fatso, but he's like fucking, you know, like 90 pounds or something, right? You know, like, oh yeah, like we'll talk to Slim over there, and whatever. Anyway, I'm just glad that they didn't call me Slim, because that would be not as cool as Suit and Tie Guy, right?
It is a very cool moniker.
Thank you. Some people think it has to do with DRI, and that is not true, because I never listened to that.
You know, I love DRI. They're from Texas, though.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Dallas,
I didn't know that they were a Texas band, but I did put on punk rock shows in the 90s.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into, you know, those were the first events that I put on, and we'll circle back to that. And then after I worked after I was putting on punk rock shows, working in the advertising specialties industry, then I worked in a television station. I was working at a UHF TV station on 9/11, which is the 20th anniversary tonight, which was a terrible tragedy, a life-changing event for the entire world. But anyway, and then after it, just like I get fired from every job you have, except for the newspaper. The newspaper loved me, but I just had to quit eventually, because by the time I quit, I was building synthesizers. Go back to work at the newspaper, and I decided I want a modular synthesizer. Okay, I think I was like subscriber number 10 to the synthesizers.com Yahoo group in like the year 2000 or something like that. I was been following it for a long time, right? And so what I wanted was I wanted a bank of 901 oscillators, and then I was going to build like synthesizers.com stuff onto it, right?
Right.
So I kind of got into synth DIY basically to do that. I basically taught myself all these skills, and I spent an enormous amount I just sold so much of my studio to be able to like do this stuff, until I got to the point where, I am waist deep in this, and I need to, I'm at the point where I can make panels, I can fabricate panels, I can solder, I can I do, I can do everything except for I can't lay a circuit board out, but you can find people to lay circuit boards out for you, And
but do you do circuit design? Do you?
There are some simple schematics that I mean, like I'm working with a layout engineer right now where I have made schematics. I've taken PDFs of schematics that I've got from previous engineers and moved them around in Illustrator to construct new schematics and then sent them to them. Yeah. But I'm not sitting there with a breadboard like coming up with circuits.
Right.
I'm an ideas person. I'm a developer. I'm a marketing guy. I'm a musician. I am not I'm not a physicist, and I am not an electrical engineer. If I am any kind of engineer, I'm what's called a product engineer.
Okay.
And a product engineer is someone that understands all the technologies that go into a product well enough to communicate with the specialized engineers that need to be employed to work on it. Okay, so you need to be able to understand what you can request of an engineer.
Right.
You cannot just say that you want something. Like I want to like ride a unicorn. Okay, well you can't ride a unicorn. You could ride a horse, right? So just like that, you have to understand that there are certain things that are unreasonable to request of an engineer. So that in understanding these things is one of the things that contributes to being, like that's part of the engineering aspect of being a product engineer is literally knowing the limits of what you can request and what your expectations
are. Could you maybe give us an example of maybe one of those light bulbs going off and like, oh, like I can't make this happen in a circuit or make it work or might be reasonable?
Yeah, like if you're trying to do something with a microprocessor, and because I do a lot of stuff with microcontrollers, because I like something I like about microcontrollers is that you can have a concept, and you can move to like concept to output without trying to figure out how to do it with transistors and resistors and whatnot, and that the input is going to be a gate signal and the output is going to be a curve of this shape, okay? And you can just do it when but what you can't do is say you have like say you've got an 8-bit DAC and you can't like demand like 14 the accuracy that would be required of a 14-bit DAC out of an 8-bit DAC. You can't fit like if you have this many lookup tables, you can't fit them in a memory that only can handle this many lookup tables. Things like this.
Right.
You have to understand what the limitations, your boundaries are, and like what's reasonable. And also, like going to microcontrollers, instead of saying to an engineer, "I have this idea for an envelope generator that has, like 3 different models and 4 different modes and 3 different absolute rates and an external tempo sync." You can't do that with transistors.
Yeah.
You can't go to an engineer and say, "Let's do this like in in discrete traditional electronics." You have to go to micro.
And I think if I can interject, here, sounds like another aspect of what you're bringing to the table in this product engineer end is that you bring a certain amount of creativity to it, or thinking outside the electronic engineer box.
Yes. You like approaching things from, in because I'm not an electrical engineer, then, and I'm thinking about, what can we do with, like, I think about architecture. I don't think about about what the actual circuit is going to be.
In my mind, the way that you're speaking, about this electrical engineering aspects, I think a lot of that has a lateral transition into organizing an event like this. Like what can be expected of something like Knobcon, and what is unreasonable, and what are the expectations.
That's true. And before we say another word, we haven't yet said that you are Knobcon.
Yes,
if people don't realize that.
I am Knobcon. Technically, my mother and I are Knobcon.
I think that's so fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had no idea, and then we were talking to George, and then he told us, and
Yeah.
just to have the family involved, and it actually kind of reminded me of, we do Synthomania, and I make my little brothers and sisters work the doors.
Yes, and
Yeah, I'm like, it's Synthomania time, you got to sell T-shirts. And,
Yeah.
yeah, I put them to work.
So yeah, what happened was I realized that I was in waist deep and that I had to sell something, and so like I made a panel. I just made a panel to load because Roger hadn't made a quantizer yet, and for the synthesizers.com format. So I made a panel to put a dope for quantizer into Moog format, and then, you know, somebody said, hey, like, can you make this thing? And so I went to Yves Song and I said, hey, can I use your circuit? And he's like, yeah, cool. And then it just kind of like went from there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to build modules. I want to build synthesizers. I want to build instruments.
Yeah.
But you have to build modules before you can build instruments. You have to build the framework and, you know, get all that stuff. So, you know, and then Knobcon was just like a growth from that, because I'm a very social person. I like talking to people. I like going to events and parties, and you know, like most of and you know, a variety of things. I mean, like most of the gigs that I've played in the past 10 years have been psytrance parties, believe it or not. I'm not sure if you're into psytrance. I'm not really into psytrance itself, but psytrance people are pretty cool, and they like my music apparently, so I get to play psytrance parties.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so like there was so like right from the get-go, I was always going to as many synth meets as possible. You know, like I've been you know, we had a mailing list called Analog Heaven that was very important for a long time. And in fact, like the guy that one of the original AH members that hosted the archive for years and years and years, Mark Pulver, finally he came to Knobcon, and it was nice to meet Mark in person.
Yeah.
You know, somebody you only see over the internet. So I was going to I'd go to these meets in like Indiana, and then, you know, Chicago synth meets, and the Chicago synth meets like didn't. There's some things that destabilized them essentially, and I went to my mom, who used to be involved in state and national PTA convention planning, and I said, hey, let's put on a synthesizer convention, and let's put on the only synthesizer convention in the world, and I will continue to say that.
Come at me.
Yeah, come at me, man. But no, I mean, and like, you know, it's like, so the first Knobcon was in 2011 or 2012. I think 2012. Whatever, doesn't matter. And it was here in this hotel in a room. I mean, the front room, it was a very small rooms, and there was, I would be lying if I said that there was 100 people at the first Knobcon. And then the second Knobcon, there were 200, and the third, there were 300, and the fourth, there were 400, and then the last Knobcon, Knobtoberfest, it was called, had 1,000 people at it. And this year we didn't have 1,000 people, but we have enough.
But it has been a good show, and surprisingly good.
You don't need 1,000 people to have a good show.
Yeah, and with the pandemic and everything going on, I think it's been great. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want people to have a good time.
Yeah, it's been
Mission accomplished.
Been so fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, just, and it's like you're saying, you know, you get to see people that you've only met on the internet or talked to on the internet, and
Only know by email address or something.
Zlob from Zlob Modular, I'd been waiting for one of his modules to come out. I've built almost every single one of his modules, and there was one that he just released this week. And so, I mean, on the whole way here, I was excited because I was like, the day I get there, I'm gonna buy that kit because it's the one that I need. And you know, he's helped me become a better tech because, you know, I built some of his DIY kits and I didn't get them right the first time, and he emailed me the schematics and I was able to troubleshoot them. And so just to be able to shake his hand and say thank you for that, You know, and then to help support some of his business by purchasing a module that I've been really looking forward to. And so, yeah, I mean, hats off to you for fostering that environment.
Yeah.
This has been really tough. I mean, you know, having to postpone it a year and, you know, not even feeling like I could even promote it. I mean, we have a Knobcon with at least 400 people at it that I didn't advertise at all for. If you want to know how a bunch of people like Knobcon, there's your answer.
Yeah.
You know, and it's flattering. It's flattering.
Good.
You know, and I had a lot of, this was definitely a bit of a hell ride. We had my sound reinforcement guy didn't show up on Thursday or Friday, but he showed up today. Anyway, so I had to do the PA and everything by myself. But see, that's what Knobcon is. Yes, it's a synthesizer convention, but you know, I put on punk rock shows in the 1990s, Legion halls and bowling alleys in Peoria, you know, and so I was able to, you know, it's like having that ethic of doing it
and making
you
it
do
work.
it as guerrilla as possible. You just do it. Just figure out a way to do it. Okay.
If you could book one punk band at Knobcon, who would it be?
I don't know what that means. I mean, ideally, like, you know, like without any regard to whether it's feasible or anything.
Totally.
Oh, the greatest punk rock band in the history of music, the KLF.
Luke knows who they are.
The KLF. But you know, the KLF, like, you know, you might think they were dance music. They were also the most punk rock band in the history of music, in my opinion.
That's awesome.
So do you want to tell us more about that little extrusion piece and its guts? And
you want me to talk about my synthesizer?
yeah, think of that.
I could do that.
It's very attractive.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Basically, I just had okay. So like, Moog, they came up with this thing, the Mother 32, and it was 2014, I think, that it came out, or was it 2015? I think it was 2015. 2014 was the Sub 37. Anyway, and you know, I remember seeing it. I actually like played the first gig with the Mother 32. The one thing about my involvement with Moog I'm rather proud of is that I was the first guy to play a gig with the Sub 37. I was the first guy to play a gig with the Mother 32, and I was the first guy to play a gig with the Moog 1. But the Mother 32, they had this you know, this cool idea of basically making a synthesizer that could be a standalone thing or could not be, depending on what you wanted to do with it, right? And it was a very good idea for them, and you know, they have a whole system, or you know, whole family of products, and they've probably, I estimate they've sold, you know, just based on what I hear from dealers and whatnot, they've sold at least 20,000 of these of things like that. Okay,
those are good numbers.
And you know, I see a lot of people with them. A lot of people have a lot of them. You know, something I noticed about people with a lot of them, they don't have any Eurorack modules. That's because the people that want to buy something like that, they don't want to stare at modular grid until their eyes bleed. And I had this idea, like, I think I could make a synthesizer that was self-contained. They could just drop into one of those Moog frames with their Mother 32, and they could like kind of branch out and get into other stuff, you know, without leaving the comfort zone of not having to make decisions about what modules go in a thing and sorting out, you know. Or it started out actually as we developed a power supply that was a drop-in aftermarket product for the Mother 32 case, because I saw these Mother 32s in Eurorack case, and I was like, well, let's see. They've sold this many Mother 32s, and I see a lot of Mother 32s in Eurorack cases. Man, there's got to be like thousands of empty Mother 32 cases out there. I'll bet if somebody made a power supply that was designed to fit in them, I could sell the shit out of it. I sold 6. Anyway,
after this podcast, you'll sell at least one more.
I'll sell one more.
One more.
I'm getting that Syntaur bump. So I hemorrhaged $14,000, $15,000, $16,000 into developing a power supply that I sold 6 of. And that like even Moog didn't want, apparently. And I'm like, don't you guys want to make Eurorack cases? Whatever. Anyway, I'm sure they hate me now. Fuck, man. Anyway, so I was like, what am I gonna do with all these power supplies? Holy shit! What am I gonna do? I'll just build a synthesizer out of them.
You've gotten that far, so.
Yeah.
When life gives you power supplies, make synthesizers.
Yeah.
That's what my grandmother used to say.
Well, and it's kind of like getting into the business of building modules. Yeah. Like I got in too deep and had to figure out a way to get out of it. Right.
The solution to doing drugs is just do more drugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the funny thing is, I think that I've sold I think that I've sold as many systems as I have the power supply boards that I originally designed. And you'd think like, oh man, he's rolling it up. Yeah, I was only 6.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I just was experimenting with, I've got kind of a wide product line, but this is a small case. So, and I have a weird product line because I have this oscillator that's super simple. This oscillator only has sawtooth, triangle, and a sub-octave square output. You might think well, that's a shitty oscillator. It doesn't really do that much. Well, hold on. Are we in the modular synthesis game or not?
Yeah.
Because I also make a pulse converter in the form of the .com. It's a comparator and a sub-octave generator. I make a wave folder for wave folding. I make.
Does it fold T-shirts?
No, it does not fold T-shirts. I'm sorry, but I do have a very cool T-shirt with the waves on it and the surfer.
Oh, I'll take that.
Okay.
Yeah.
My dead friend designed that.
Nice.
DJ Frowntown. I actually this Peacemaker I wear on my tie. I actually bought that for him as a gift, and he died before I could give it to him. That's why I wear this. But he was a very important part of Knobcon for the first few years, and he designed a couple of the T-shirts. Have you ever seen the Cool Piano Dude shirt?
I saw someone wearing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you get the joke? It's a mini Moog, and it just says "Cool Piano Dude."
Yeah.
Because there are people who always say, "Is that piano?" Yeah. And he just took this mini Moog and he just put Cooper Black, Cool Piano Dude on it. And so if anyone wants to know why the Moog 1 has a patch in it called Cool Piano Dude, then that was the piano patch. And, that was I'll name it after that,
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, yeah, what I do is, I'm like, what can I fit in this box? So I wind up with these little separate synthesizers that actually have a lot of individual character, like Radiophonic 1, which was the first thing that I showed like this. It has, for the wave shaper in it, there's a, it's got an oscillator, but in the wave shaper in it is the slicer, which is a wave slicer driven by a comparator. So you can use it as a pulse converter, but you can also use it to combine 2 different signals according to another signal, right? And then it had the Sea Devils filter, which is an EMS filter, okay? And then this thing right here, instead of the slicer, it's got the .com, and this thing, and it has the post-lawsuit low-pass filter instead of the EMS filter. And the post-lawsuit low-pass filter is essentially an ARP filter, right? So this is kind of like an SH-101 from hell, right?
Nice.
And, but yeah, I tell you, my product line is really weird because I got the super simple VCO, but then I have the most complicated ADSR in the world going on right here, the envelope generator. And it has CV for all of the stages and the curve and,
Looping, does it loop?
Oh, yeah. It has 2 different looping modes. Basically, the idea for this envelope generator was I wanted to combine the Moog 911 and the EMS, the trapezoid from the Synthy 100. Nice. Not the Synthy A, the Synthy 100. And the Synthy 100 had 4 different modes of operation, and I copied those the hold, the trigger, the looping, and the looping and gate. Yeah, it's
and the one thing that I really like the length of those sliders as well. It looks like it's a very tactile, like something that you can
I think these are like 60 millimeter sliders.
Yeah, 60.
Yeah, and they light up, with the whatever when you're on
with the power supply.
No, they light up with the stages of the envelope.
Oh, as it's playing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes,
that's really awesome.
It's important because they're different modes. The sliders are not labeled attack because it changes, and there's also multiple outputs. This thing makes 2 different shapes at once. Okay,
that's wild.
But
I like that.
Basically, there's time. Like the Moog 911 is like T1, T2, T3, right? Okay, so I have T4. Okay, which wasn't a very good movie, but whatever. I mean, who cares? So. You blow through the stages, and it tells you what stage you're on. And I mean, there's an LED slider for the curve. It doesn't even light up. I don't know why I didn't. Whatever. Anyway. I had the sliders. I had to use them. Quite frankly, I couldn't figure out what to do with the LED on the curve control, which is why it doesn't light up for any reason. But whatever. Sorry, guys.
Come at me.
Come at me.
But that's a cool concept.
Thank you.
That is really awesome.
Using the Moog platform, if you will,
boat,
and then coming out with something.
And I've like I said, I've got my own extrusions now. So the next one of these you see, the boat will be. It won't be a Moog boat that I bought from Sweetwater and then just like covered up their logo with my. I literally got these they're laser cut plates from Pinoco that I just epoxy on, It
had to be the right size to cover up the other.
Yes, yeah, the right size to cover up. But now mine will, I'm getting an engraving machine. I've got some ideas. Like, I think it'd be really cool if somebody buys a synthesizer from you that you can like engrave their name on it. So they get it, and it's like super personal. I write the customer's name on every module that I build.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. They buy a module for, why wouldn't I? Yeah. Why use serial numbers? Who cares?
That's true.
Okay. Cool serial number story. Hammond serial numbers. They mean nothing. Because at least as far as the class, like the older Hammond, the early Hammond, the mid-century Hammond period, because the way that Hammond serialized organs is they would order a bunch of of tags from the tag company, okay, and have them do the serialization and everything, right?
Right.
And then they would just take the shipment from the tag company, and I'm not even joking. They would just dump it into a bread pan, okay. And then when an organ came off the line, they would just reach into the bread pan and nail one of those tags on. And then they would write in a ledger what the serial number was and what the dealer it went to was and what the color of the finish was and what the type of organ it was.
So a B3 might have a number, and then a C3 might have the next number, and
no, I think that like they're like, yeah, they I think that they did well, there's listen, just go to Rick Prevelat's like Hammond serial number archive page, and if you're super curious. But but I thought that was a really interesting approach to serials. Roger Eric doesn't serial his products at all. They just have an inspection tag on them.
I like the idea of the name, though.
I know. I was gonna say that's an even better serialization.
Well, I also liked the idea of like when I'm gone, nobody ever being able to tell how many I made of anything.
Yeah.
But
like,
now we know that 6.
Well, as of September 11th, 2021.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
but,
Well,
just one real quick question.
Yeah.
So Suit and Tie Guy, as a product company, about how many employees do you have, or is it,
I don't know what an employee. I'm sorry, employees.
Employees.
Is that a thing?
I mean, you have such an interesting take on serial numbers. So is it mainly you pushing?
I
out
live with my
product, or-
parents. I'm in a 120-year-old grocery store in downtown Chillicothe with 9 layers of peeling wallpaper. And I guess I peacock well, but, you know, it's, no, I mean, I don't have employees. I have to, you know, like sometimes people, you know, I pay people to do stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't have employees. There are people that help me on, you know, like that, you know, people I have relationships with, and they come in and help me do specific things like work a NAM booth or, you know, like, hey, can you like put a bunch of headers on these things or whatever. But no, I'm still, you know, I mean, eventually, you know, I'll be like, you know, Tony Rolando and have 11 employees, and then I can pay $20,000 for a Jupiter 8, but, or whatever, you know, like.
But it sounds cool because it sounds like you've got all the network of stuff to make your products.
Yes.
That a lot of people don't have.
And a serious amount of dedication.
Yeah, I mean, I've basically spent the past 16 years of my, since high school, I guess, maybe if you want to look at it that way. I build foundation. Yeah. I constantly, I mean, and you know, Knobcon, I hate renting things. I like to invest. Yeah. I like to build foundation, like in the lecture hall right now. I'm not sure if you saw the setup that we have, but basically, like, I am recording that with multiple full-frame cameras into hardware video recorders that are all synchronized over DB9 cables from a hardware editing controller. I'm using this weird mishmash of, I'm kind of a I don't know if you ever saw Johnny Mnemonic, but I consider myself a low-tech. Okay, I don't use the current technology. I use previous generation technology because it's cheap and effective and reliable. I mean, I have a 2008 Mac Pro. Okay, that's what I do all my work on. You know, I just finally went from CS1 to CS3, for example, for Adobe stuff, and but you know, like you know, I'm a bit of a shutterbug.
Yeah, I saw you walking around taking pictures.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a large lens collection, and the neat thing about my lens collection, you know, I have one camera, tons of lenses. So when I'm doing something like this, I want to do a multi-camera thing, then I just call up lens rentals, and I can order, you know, I can rent, like, I can pay $56 per camera to rent full-frame HDMI cameras for 4 days, and then I hook them into HD video recorders, and then, you know, when I got my Biden buck earlier this year, I spent it on an $8,000 video mixer, a Roland V800. It's a full HD thing. And I was like, how did you get 8,000? Well, I didn't. I got 16, just like everybody else. But I spent it on. I just worked eBay and just hammered people on make offer until somebody would sell me a V800 for $1,600. And so now I can, when I get back to Chillicothe, I can, for the lectures, instead of having somebody edit videos for me, which has never worked out in the past, and I personally hate nonlinear video editing. I like nonlinear audio editing, but not video editing. I can take these 4 recorders, plug the controller into them. The controller sends it's kind of we can talk about it later. It's a little in the weeds, but basically I can control multiple production recorders from one. What's called an editing controller, which we use to operate VTRs in the TV station or whatever. Remember, I used to work in TV. Anyway,
UHF.
I worked in a UHF station. I now have better cameras, better recorders, and a better video mixer than the TV station that I used to work at.
Come at me.
Yeah, come at me, ABC. Okay, so like, so I can go back, set this stuff up, plug the controllers in, plug the outputs of the video recorders in. I got 2 camera angles on 2 recorders. I got one other recorder for whatever the lecture's slideshow is, because I'm sending it into both the video recorder and the projector at the same time. Feed those 3 things into my video mixer, press play on the editing controller and set up in a gang mode, and then I can just do the video switching myself and produce, YouTube content without having to deal with fucking video editors.
Hear that, Luke?
Well, it sounds great.
So, you know, but that's all that stuff that I'm talking about.
You've worked hard and you've
That's
you've
like
built
literally
it.
like, I mean, if you'd bought it new, when it was new, we're talking about like those recorders were $7 grand, but I can buy them on eBay for $4 now. That video mixer, full HD. Full HD, nobody wants it anymore. Doesn't do 4K. Fuck 4K. I'm sorry I didn't ask you if I could swear on this.
Yeah, it's
you can
all right.
bleep me. Please bleep me with like a clown horn or something. But no, and it's like I put barely any money into this, right? I mean, a lot of money. I mean, not like Jupiter 8 money, but like maybe like I don't know,
Jupiter 6?
Jupiter 6. Man, no, more like I don't know, Cord Kronos money. I put Kronos money. I threw the amount instead of buying myself a new Cord Kronos, I bought a stack of video recorders and a video mixer, and now I can do that. And now I have this like really hot video production system, and I can do pretty intense video production. And that's just the kind of thinking that, you know, I just like build foundation. You just like keep laying the brickwork, and then if you and make it possible, if you do become really successful, that you've got everything that you need to like level up if you need to.
Yeah.
Okay. So to answer your question of how many employees do I have, does that answer it?
Yes, perfectly.
How many employees do you have? Well, I didn't get done packing the trailer for Knobcon until 4:20 in the morning I didn't leave Chillicothe until 4:20 in the morning on Thursday, and then I drove here.
We know that story. I have a similar story.
Yeah, you guys, you guys do the same kind of shit.
Yeah, and I guess that was kind of, my main reason for asking. We get a lot of phone calls up at the shop, and what do you mean you can't do free shipping on this, or I can get this for a better price from this company or that. And
well, then buy it somewhere else.
And it's like, I don't think you realize how small of a company we are. Like, we're literally family.
Yeah.
We all live down the street, and like when the blizzard happened, I was calling Sam to get heaters for my family.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you need to stay at the shop, come stay at the shop. And
that's good.
Yeah. And but that's what I love about events like this, and working in the synthesizer community, and just doing community-oriented things.
And it is.
Brings
it is
us
a
all
community.
together.
Yeah.
It is a community, which
So thank you for promoting it.
Yeah, thank you very much. It has been.
You're welcome.
It has
Thank
been
you for your support, and thank you for your money, and thank you for showing up. And I gotta say, I love your content.
Thank you.
I love what you do. I think it's great. I really one of my it's always Food Network is always on the TV, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Kroll Show.
Oh yeah,
the Kroll Show is basically Nick Kroll's like satire of reality TV. And I've never seen anybody other than Nick Kroll really like really got the vibe, the production vibe of like that History Channel stuff.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm really impressed.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay. There's a lot more coming. We have some
that's good.
We have some really cool stuff.
Like,
in the
did you
works.
get the email? So when you did, there was one about the Russia. It was something. The Russian synth was. What was it?
We got a Jupiter 4 from Russia.
Okay, yeah, and like when you were talking, I was watching it with Bubba, and you put something on the screen that was so funny. Like he went into Bubba's the guy walking around in the hard hat with the
right.
Yeah.
And he thought it was so fun. If I have an employee, it would be Bubba. But I mean, there's no such thing as payroll. I mean, he sleeps on my couch, and, whatever. Anyway, like, I'll pay him to do stuff, and then he's off doing DoorDash or whatever, painting my mom's building. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so like, but he thought it was so funny to him that like he lost composure and destroyed a table in my studio, And I took a photo of it, and I sent you the photo, and I said, look at what you did to my studio. That's what that email was about.
I'm just glad it didn't come with an invoice.
No, it didn't have an invoice. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I appreciate that. And we appreciate Knobcon and,
thank you.
and what you're doing. And
the time you've taken out of your day to spend with us, it means a lot.
So
no, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to using those sliders that you sent me and the overlay. The overlay looked beautiful.
Good.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to my Junos being. I have 2 Juno 6s, and he sent me some sliders. We finally have those available to us, and it's great. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to be a little. If you want to follow Knobcon, use the web. The web zone is for the Knobcon web zone is knobcon.com, and my web zone is stgsoundlabs.com. And if you want to listen to my music that I recorded at psytrance parties in Midwestern cornfields and clothing optional sexual freedom campgrounds, you can go to suitandtieguy.bandcamp.com. And I got to go further. This is important. So my friend Danielle Morales could not be here. She was supposed to be here, and her sister was supposed to be here. I don't know if you've ever had a pulmonary embolism, but it's some and she and Crystal, have you met them?
No.
Okay, they're deaf-blind synthesizer players from Austin, twin sisters.
Really?
Okay, the Synth Freak, FREQ. Okay. And Danielle had to go into the ICU and big hospital stay. And now she's got But anyway, my Bandcamp page for years has just funneled. If you go to pay for, it's always name your price. And forever, I have just basically funneled all of the money from my Bandcamp page. My Bandcamp page, the PayPal account on it is not mine; it's Danielle's. Okay, so basically, they just get the money. If you go and buy my albums. Deaf-blind twin sisters from Austin, Texas that play synthesizers, and they're amazing. They get the money. Okay, it's the least I can do for them. Okay,
That's nice.
And they played at Knobcon before. They were supposed to play this year, and they couldn't because, someone because of the embolism thing.
Yeah.
And she's got a GoFundMe thing. She's trying to deal with bills from this and whatever.
Yeah.
So go to the GoFundMe page if you can, or buy an album from me. I don't get the money. Danielle gets the money. So, but
Nice.
anyway, I had to put that in because she texted me. She's like, "Could you tell some people about what I'm going through or whatever?" And I had no opportunity to because we didn't have the banquet this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. And I know we're running out of time, or have already. So.
Oh yeah, we're long.
But
tell the affiliates we went long.
Come at me.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Hey man, I'm really glad. I'm really glad you came.
Yeah, we are too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with that, we'll say our standard sign off. We'll modulate.
Be seeing you.